What if the video you're watching right now isn't random? What if, out of everything competing for your attention, something guided you here at this exact moment? Not to a highlight reel, not to entertainment, but to this, a message about your pain, your confusion, and the strange feeling that your life has been quietly falling apart for longer than you want to admit. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could be the most important thing you hear this year. This video is not here to entertain you. It's not here to give you a 5-step formula or tell you everything will be okay if you just think positive. What this video is here to do is much more uncomfortable than that. It's here to reflect something back to you that you might have been running from. And if you stay with it, if you let it land, it might be the beginning of the most important shift of your life. Carl Jung spent decades studying what happens to the human psyche when a person wakes up to the realization that the life they're living isn't actually theirs. He called this the process of individuation, and he wasn't describing some rare spiritual experience reserved for monks and mystics. He was describing something that happens to ordinary people, people exactly like you, people who followed the rules, did what was expected, built the life they were told to want, and then one day looked around and felt absolutely hollow. Let's start with something most people are afraid to say out loud. The life you've been living might not be yours. Think about the choices that shaped where you are right now. The career path you took, the relationships you stayed in, the dreams you quietly buried because they seemed impractical or embarrassing or simply too much. How many of those choices came from what you genuinely wanted? And how many came from what was expected of you? From the need to be accepted? From the fear of disappointing someone? From wanting to be seen as responsible, stable, normal? Jung had a word for the version of ourselves we present to the world. He called it the persona. It's the mask, the character, the carefully constructed identity we wear to function in society. And there's nothing inherently wrong with having one. We all need to navigate the social world. The problem arises when the mask becomes so familiar, so practiced, so rewarded by others, that we forget there's a real person underneath it. And slowly, without realizing it, we become the performance. We stop living from the inside and start living for the outside. And here's the thing about that. It works. For a while. Society rewards conformity. You get the approval, the stability, the social belonging. But the psyche keeps score. And at some point it stops cooperating. What does that look like? It looks like waking up exhausted even after a full night of sleep. It looks like scrolling your phone for hours to avoid being alone with your own thoughts. It looks like a vague but persistent feeling that something is missing, even when objectively everything looks fine. It looks like anxiety that doesn't have a clear source, like a sadness that visits without warning, like a deep, aching boredom that no distraction can touch for long. Most people, when they reach this point, do one of two things. They push through it, tell themselves to be grateful, try to be more productive, more disciplined, more positive. Or they numb it, with work, with substances, with entertainment, with constant busyness. Anything to avoid sitting in that discomfort. Because sitting in it feels like danger. But Jung understood something radical about this discomfort. He understood that it isn't a malfunction. It's a message. It's the psyche doing exactly what it's designed to do when a person has drifted too far from their authentic self. It raises the alarm. It introduces symptoms, anxiety, emptiness, restlessness, the feeling of being a stranger in your own life. Not to punish you, but to wake you up. This is where suffering becomes something other than just suffering. This is where it becomes a threshold. Jung described the unconscious as something far more than a storage room for repressed memories. He saw it as a living intelligence, a part of the psyche that holds everything you've pushed away, every desire you suppressed, every truth you couldn't afford to acknowledge, every version of yourself you were told wasn't acceptable. And when the conscious mind refuses to listen to its quiet signals, the unconscious escalates. It speaks louder, through dreams, through physical symptoms, through the kind of emotional collapse that stops you in your tracks. And sometimes it speaks through what Jung called synchronicity. Those moments when the right book falls off the shelf, when a conversation goes exactly where you needed it to go, when a video appears in your feed at the exact moment you are sitting on the edge of something. That feeling of uncanny alignment isn't superstition. It's the unconscious pulling toward what it needs. You didn't stumble onto this video by accident. Something in you was already searching. Now here's where it gets difficult. Because understanding all of this intellectually is one thing. Doing something with it is another. And doing something with it requires facing what Jung called the shadow. The shadow is everything you've denied about yourself. The anger you were told wasn't appropriate. The ambition you were ashamed of. The grief you never properly felt. The parts of your personality that didn't fit the role you were playing. You didn't destroy those parts. They don't disappear just because you ignore them. They go underground. And they run your life from there, shaping your choices, your relationships, your reactions, in ways you don't fully understand. Integrating the shadow means looking at those parts, not to become them, but to acknowledge them, to stop being controlled by what you refuse to see. This is the work Jung called necessary, not optional, not aspirational, necessary. Because the unlived life doesn't just sit quietly, it deteriorates. It becomes resentment, illness, self-destruction, or worst of all, a slow, invisible decay. Most people never do this work, not because they're weak, but because the system they live inside gives them no reason to. The modern world is extraordinarily well designed to keep you comfortable enough to never question anything seriously. There's always something to consume, somewhere to be, something to achieve. The machinery of daily life keeps moving, and you keep moving with it, and the years pass, and you look back and wonder where you went. But you are here, right now, at this point in this video, which means part of you has already decided it's time. And that brings us to the hardest truth of all. No one is coming to do this for you. Not a mentor, not a partner, not a therapist, though therapy can certainly help, not a new job, a new city, a new relationship. None of those things, on their own, will reach into the part of you that needs to change. Because the crossing that Jung described isn't external, it's internal. It happens in the quiet, in the moments you face yourself honestly, in the decision made again and again to choose authenticity over comfort. Radical responsibility doesn't mean you caused everything that hurt you. It means you stop waiting for someone else to fix what only you can fix. It means you stop outsourcing the decisions that belong to your own life. It means you become the author of your story instead of a character in someone else's. And yes, this is frightening. It should be. Because what's on the other side of that fear is genuinely unknown. You don't know who you are when you stop performing. You don't know what your life looks like when it's built from the inside out. That uncertainty is real. But staying where you are is also a choice, and it has consequences too. Quiet, accumulating, invisible consequences. Jung wrote that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, not the curated version, not the version that makes others comfortable, all of it, the darkness and the light, the contradiction and the longing, the parts that don't fit the image you've been maintaining. And here's what exists on the other side of that terrifying acceptance. Not perfection, not a life without struggle, but a life that is genuinely yours. One where your choices come from your own center rather than from fear or approval. One where you feel, maybe for the first time, that you are actually present in your own existence. That is what individuation is. It's not a destination, it's a direction. a commitment to keep moving toward yourself rather than away. You have already taken a step by being here, by watching, by letting these ideas touch something real in you instead of scrolling past. That matters. The psyche registers it. So let me ask you something before this ends. Not rhetorically. Actually ask yourself right now. What is the one thing you already know needs to change in your life, the thing you've been pretending not to know? You don't have to answer out loud, but sit with it. Don't rush to the next thing. Let the question do its work. The next video on this channel continues exactly where this one leaves off. It goes deeper into the shadow, deeper into the process of building a life from authenticity rather than fear. And if this one found you when you needed it, I believe that one will too. Don't stop now. You've already begun.